Hi, Shohini.
Hi, how you doing, Deepa?
So I'm so honored and delighted to have you as our Lumiere Learning Monday guest in our Inspiring Women series. Shohini Ghosh, who's a sculptor, and she's joined us from Colorado in the United States. I mean, I am so delighted and so privileged that when we took these events online, I remember Shohini watching. I think it was probably 4 or 5 years ago when I was looking at your. I've been following your work for some time, and I would keep having this wistful longing, saying, "How is it that we can bring her to our office? I would love to have her come and talk to our team." And now look at us. I mean, you're sitting in your drawing room. I'm sitting in Navi Mumbai, and we're having this conversation. I mean, how cool is that?
Unbelievable, isn't it? What technology can do, and good things about COVID, I think. Some of the good things.
Totally, totally. So, Shohini, our audience is obviously very curious to know sculpture and in the US, and very curious, I'm sure, to know about your journey and how it all began. Did you know as a little girl you wanted to be an artist and specifically a sculptor? Tell us a little bit about what were those early formative days for you in with your art.
Um, I think when I was a little kid, I didn't know I was going to be a sculptor. I don't think it was a profession in my mind at that time. It was more like a hobby, mostly because my mother was an artist from Shantiniketan. And our free time, or when we were playing outdoors, my mom would give us a sheet of paper and say, go and paint or draw or do what you like with it. So it was more a hobby. It was easy to express, and it was something you did, uh, when you want to pass time. I happened upon art from my days in Xavier's, actually, St. Xavier's. I was pursuing my 11th grade, 12th grade, and then deciding to join the bachelor's degree when I happened to walk through the campus at JJ in Bombay and Mumbai, and I just fell in love with the campus. And I said, "How do I come here as often as I want?" It was
Uh-huh.
such an oasis in the middle of the hurry burry of Bombay activity, and the transport and the people and the sounds and the people and just everything. It seemed like you were just transported into Goa or something like that. So, and that's how I joined JJ, and I uh, loved it. I loved every part of it. Um, and it was a longer process because it was a 5 year course, while at Xavier's it would have been a 3 years course and I would be done. But I enjoyed the process so much. That's how I got to doing sculpture.
So you so you did fine arts at that time?
I did fine arts. I What happens is you do a general, at least during when I joined, you do a general first year where everyone is trained in all the skills, and then you stand in your ranking. You are given the opportunity to choose your stream after that first year. And I remember I stood first. I think, yeah, I stood first. So I got a chance to pick what I wanted. Most people pick to go into advertising or illustration. I somehow wanted to do sculpture. I didn't think
And
drawing was my
you
calling.
had your teachers there who supported and encouraged you, and I believe you also started teaching at JJ. Tell us about that.
Yes, and then after the 5 years, I actually stood first class first in the university for sculpture in India at Mumbai, so Mumbai University. So the tradition is they call the first students back to teach immediately.
Wow.
And so I was invited back. I remember meeting my dean, and he says, "This is your letter of appointment to teach art history and sculpture. And if you like, you have to start up first thing on when school begins in June. But you need to change your attire. You can't be wearing jeans to class. You have to come in wearing a sari." So that was when it started. Yes, it was very interesting.
And you
Um,
taught for how long at JJ?
I taught for 4 years. A very interesting experience because a few months ago I was a student with all the kids in the class, and then after I graduated, I became their teacher. So I come back to a class where all the students were my peer, and now they have to look up at me and listen to what I have to say to them, and uh, you know, uh, give me that respect of a teacher. And sometimes I would get a little bit, I'd get a few comments that were not really kosher, and especially when I'm grading their papers, and they were not happy about that. Yeah.
And then your journey took you away to the US. But I'm even before we go there, I'm trying to think. Your mom who was raised in Niketan environment and saw this early, art and your interest and your talent. I'm sure it wasn't hidden from her. Did they not, your parents not sort of nudge you towards taking art or studying art, or as in like most of us would want our kids, the moment you see the glimmer of a talent, to say, oh, maybe you should do this? Or what was it for you?
Actually, I was very happy that my parents finally they were very happy at my choice, because this was the early 80s, and a profession in the art was still not very palpable. I mean, you'd have to do something which is a lot more job oriented,
Ah,
and art didn't seem like that. But finally, when I decided to join JJ, I remember I was very blessed to have my mother and father say, "Yes, you should go ahead and do this." This obviously that was the final thing. Before that, they went and quizzed the college dean and the professors, and they wanted to know for themselves if it was a good profession to be in. And the I think they were pretty convinced after they went to college and found out that people do well, and they
yeah.
carry on the profession all over the world. So they were very happy about that.
And you went away to the US in which year, Shohini?
I left in 1998, and this February of 1998, and um, I had to leave my position because I don't think I was going to come back. And college was very sad because I would have been the head of department, I think, if I did stay for a little longer. But I just thought that I was so confident about my skill and my art that I thought if I can do what I did in India, I can do it anywhere in the world.
Beautiful. What was the time between going to the US and then the first day of starting work again as a sculptor? Was there like a lag? Did it take time to sort of go back to your art?
Actually, when I came to the United States, it's a completely different environment in the art field. In India, I was aware of the nuances of how to project your work. People know who you are. You're already established. You pull from your resources like your peer, your schools, your comfort zones. When you're in the US, I found that there was nothing like that. They don't even know who I am. My name is difficult to pronounce. Um, I'm in a environment where I don't have anything. When I came away, I didn't carry any art with me, because in those days you carry a suitcase and art and stuff you can't carry too much. It's weight. So I'd have to start from scratch, although I had a portfolio, and I thought I should start by seeing where it would take me. So I went to a number of galleries, and they'd said, "We like the work, but do you have anything now?" And I'd say, "No, I don't have anything now." So then come back when you have things to show us physically. So it took me about a couple of years, and I started mostly by um, uh, doing a few studio sculpture stints. I was doing one studio sculpture stint in the Museum of Houston, Glassell School of Art. They gave me a studio where I could sculpt whatever I wanted. I'd come in at my own time. So uh, I started with that. I started building my portfolio from that in the US. Uh, Carried on, had an exhibition in 1999, of the first one of its kind here in Colorado. And after that, I started sculpting, and people started knowing what I do and how I do it. A few years I worked in a foundry to know the process, because I wasn't um, aware of the processes, the technology that was used in sculpture here. It wasn't the same in India. So I had to get to know my art much better than I knew it. I knew it in theory, but I'd never used it before. So I worked in the foundry for about a year and a half, just after my first baby was born, and then I was still pregnant with my second. So it was very interesting. Um, and then, um, and then from there, I started sculpting and exhibiting.
So now it's 32 years that you've been sculpting. And
Yeah.
how do you structure your day? I'm very curious because you hold a day job and then you sculpt at night. So tell us, and you your wife, mom to two kids. So tell us a little bit about how your day is structured.
So it's early morning, at least when the kids were younger. It was the hurry burry of getting them out of the house, dressed and ready to go to school, dropping them to school, and then I had to go to work. Work was also very close to my home, so I didn't have to travel too far. Um, and Being a real estate agent, I had appointments that I had to set for the day, and I would set as many as I could. When the kids grow older and older, you know that they're up to no good. Just when you're ready for an interview or a showing, you get a phone call saying, "Mommy, my tummy is paining. I need to come back home." So you have to drop everything and come away. So anyway, those were the. Now I look back at it and I laugh, but at that time it was very frustrating.
I can imagine.
And
I
you
can
come
imagine.
back. Yeah, my day would get over at work. I would insist. We have very good managing broker, and they know the requirements of moms who need to be there 100% for their children. So by around 4 or 5 o'clock, I was done. I'd bring them over home, and for a little while, my in-laws would live with me, so they had the kids home, and then I'd come and meet them, and then we'd do homework or whatever other extracurricular they had to do. Put them to bed by 7:30 as fast as I can. and then I have the rest of the evening for myself. So that's how I used to work my set up my days. And in a year, I would try to do 3 or 4 exhibitions, meaning that would require about 10 to 15 sculptures. And I'd kind of know how much time each one would take. And um, so the timelines were a little looser, a little less stringent and set. It was a little loose. So uh,
So when you work, just so I understand, if you're doing 12 pieces, do you parallel press the pieces, or is it linear, one after the other? How does it work how's the creative process structured, Shohini?
Usually, I have seen how I work. I work from sketches. So if I'm doing a series of something, it is one idea in 5 different forms. I try sculpting 2 or 3 together at the same time. So the idea is still kind of uh, uh, being hashed out and reworked in each of them. You can see the formation going from one to the other. It's almost like a diary sometimes if you see the work, the process from one to the other. And and then it's a very old process of wax, lost wax process. So I sculpt in clay, and then I take it over to, I mold my pieces myself and pour wax, send that out to the foundry. I cannot do the foundry work myself. So I send it out to the foundry. They pour molten wax and send me a positive of what I developed and sent them. And I finish it, and then my piece is ready. So it's a very long drawn process. We learn a lot of patience because from sketch to the 3 dimension, you don't you the process takes about um, 7 to 8 forms before it gets to be seen again.
Wow. Wow. So patience is really at the heart of it all.
Absolutely, I think I've learned more patience because of sculpture than anything else.
Do you get unexpected results sometimes, Shohini, at the foundry? Unexpected things
A
happen.
lot, a lot of times you have to kind of work around them. Sometimes you have to anticipate and make sure that it doesn't happen. Then again, some unexpected pour or a mispour gives you an unusual result that you would not have seen, but you like and you would like to keep. So, yeah, there. I've had maybe a couple of mispours and surprises like that, but I don't really like it because I I would rather not waste the money. It's money wasted.
And you use brass primarily?
It's called bronze over here. In India, I would have used brass and a completely different process. But bronze is a more solid alloy. It's a copper, zinc, and tin alloy, and it's something that is more stable. Brass is not that stable.
So
Uh,
bronze is what most of your work is. Most of your pieces are bronze. And do you also have colors and tints in the end finish which vary?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting thing. I learned patinas. That's the color chemical coloring on surface on metal surfaces, which sticks to the surface. So it's not paint; it's a chemical reaction to the surface of the metal, and various salts have various colors. So when you see an old Indian sculpture, say metal sculpture of a politician or a freedom fighter, and it has gone green, that means there's been a lot of salt that has developed on there because of the connection with salt in the atmosphere. The surface has reacted. I try to control that. So I use different types of chemicals like ferrous oxide and for red, then silver nitrate for white. So, I kind of have a color chart which I use for the various colors that I want. So it's almost like painting the sculpture, but they are permanent color. And it's applied with a high heat, and once you put the chemical on the surface, it gets adhered to the surface for a long time. It doesn't wash away.
How does, your ethnicity, the origins, the work that you've done here, the influences from Asia, does your audience give you feedback, where they kind of see things which they haven't seen before? Do you ascribe any of your creativity to that, your influences?
Absolutely. I feel one is a very big thing of being a graduate from JJ School of Art, which I think they teach you something so basic that it doesn't matter where you are and what advanced technology you deal with, the basic knowledge of everything has already been taught. So now how to apply it, maybe with a little advanced processes or machines or non-touch uh, uh, um, uh, applications, but the crux of the matter is still that basic structure that you have learned, discipline that you have learned. Plus, my ethnicity comes through, I think, mostly um, very strong with my images. I have a very figurative representation. And of late, I'm trying to kind of be more global because that's what I am. I'm an Asian brown woman working in the United States. And I do like to be more global in my approach to a topic because we're all human and we all feel uh, these instances and emotions just the same. So I like to bring that out more than my ethnicity. But being from JJ and being traditionally trained, I do find myself sculpting a lot of traditional art as well. So I do Ganeshas, I do um, Indian mythology, images from Indian mythologies. So yes, I have a spectrum of topics.
Shohini, tell our audience about how in 2011 you represented the United States in China in the big event, the global event that was taking place. So, how did that come to be, and what was your experience like? How did it influence you as an artist?
So 2011, I was still sculpting. Had started doing a number of public art pieces around the country when I was invited to apply for a symposium in China. And just out of a lark, I said, "Let's just try. What harm does it do if it doesn't come through?" I sent out a proposal, and suddenly, I sent out a proposal in January. Forgot all about it. In March, in end of March, I get a letter saying, "Mrs. Ghosh, please accept our." Congratulations, you've been accepted to come to China and represent the United States for a symposium in sculpture. And this is your visa and this is your ticket. And I was shocked. I was like, this looks like one of the scam things. It cannot be true. So, and who do I ask? I mean, went back into their website. I Googled, mapped where they were. It all looked pretty legit. Then I found that they have been, holding these symposiums for the last 12 years, and I tried to Skype with some of the artists who had been there, Um, and luckily, I got a response back from about three artists, one from St. Lucia, and one from England, and one from Armenia. And the three of them, as soon as I spoke about it, they said, "Oh, you must go. You must never let this opportunity slip by. They take full care of you. You'll love it." So very sweet of my husband. He said, "You'll never get a chance like this. This is amazing. Just go. I'll take care of the house. I'll take care of the family. You just go." And so that's how I landed up in China. In It's a northern province called Jilin, and at the International Sculpture Garden. They were having a symposium, and they have one every year. So this year, in 2011, I represented the United States as the American artist. And it was an experience of a lifetime. I had an interpreter, so and she was really sweet. So I would write articles, and she would send it to the publishers, and they'd publish it for me. The newspapers. It was very. I had this interpreter with me all the time, and I had four apprentices to recreate my sculpture called Class Act in 13-foot bronze size. And my Class Act bronze sculpture was about 18 inches. So I said, okay, now I don't have tools for something so big. I had to make the tools, and 2 months I spent in China to create this big sculpture, which was put into a garden, and it still stands. It's a permanent piece there. And
Is it possible for us to see this piece, Yash, as we speak?
yes,
It's one of my favorites, Shohini, Class Act. It's just brilliant. I just simply love it. Is it
thank
possible,
you.
Yash? Otherwise, we can keep talking, and maybe towards the end, you can show us some of the sculptures. So, you said there were four apprentices that you also had.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had
good.
these four. Sorry, what did you say?
So I'm saying, do these they become like, are they like students? Do they remain with you? Are they in touch with you now with their art
They
journey?
they are the sweetest students. They were final year sculpture students in China, and they got to apprentice with all these international sculptors. And at the end of it, I gave them, recommendation letters for their work. They were so sweet. I mean, very helpful, very jovial, very ready to do anything you want, and they're ready to share with you their homes, their lives, their families. um,
Look at
they
this. This is Class Act. So tell our audience a little bit about the inspiration here. This
so
is just
class
so beautiful.
This is called Class Act. It's actually the leapfrog game that I used to play when I was in first grade, I think. And I've made it into two clowns, and they are trying to balance on a ball. So it's a high skill of, first playing leapfrog plus trying to balance on the ball. That's why it's called Class Act. Actually, you cannot see it very clearly, but this one has both the clowns have a little piece of me. They both have dimples, like I do. So that was my little signature that I left behind on the sculpture. And what was interesting is I had to I signed my sculptures at the end of it. And they said, would you like to sign it also in Chinese? Because people would be able to read it then. So I signed it in English as well as Chinese.
Wow. Thank you, Yash. Thank you for that. That was superb. And when you did this, what's the whole notion of a clown, or the clown as a concept? How did they respond to the idea, Shohini?
I think loved it. While I was sculpting, I used to have people just stand there, watch, and they would be laughing. They'd love the piece because of its physicality. And I like representing clowns with the physical nature of it. uh, I mean, however old you are, you react to a clown, and it was that essence that I wanted to portray in the sculpture, the pure fun of watching something silly like that. The connections that we build with these small, very personal, very uh, split-second moments of emotion.
So
Bring
when
me.
you sketched, you had sketched this image, and then the whole work process of you said right from building the tools, because this was 7 feet tall.
Yeah, this was not 7. This was 13 feet. It's
This
very
was
tall.
13. Ah.
Yeah. And yeah, I had to make the sculpture tools. Usually, with a small piece, you have small tools. But for something that large, if you have to carve out or you have to smoothen out, you need something as big as your hand or larger. So, traveling from the United States to China, it was just not possible to carry any tools. I wouldn't have been able to carry a large tool either. So I got around getting my apprentice to sit down and make tools, something that I had learned in JJ. So it was easy, and gave them designs, made sure they carved it the same way that I wanted it. Then we used them for our sculpture.
After that, when you came back, this was about, I think, a few years into your work in the United States. What did this do for you with respect to your confidence and the recognition that came with it in your journey?
I thought that one thing that I learned was confidence in my own work, that I can manage to work in any scenario. I can be in outside of my studio and still sculpt, and I think that has stayed with me. A small example of that was when I just last November I made this sculpt. I helped with a ice sculpture. A friend of mine and we were a team, and we sculpted this dragon in Berthoud in Loveland, close to Denver, and we sculpted a 7 foot ice sculpture. So I got myself out of the constraints of being in your own studio with your own tools and your own comfort zone. So I thought that was one thing that I learned. Another thing was, once I did that, I think the attitude changed from uh, in the art world, that I'm not an outsider. I'm part of the American artist diaspora, because I represented the country. I was doing the skill was more important than the ethnic look, who I am and where I am from. It just gives another dimension instead of being the main dialogue. Like, she's an Indian sculptor. It wasn't that. It was like, she's a sculptor, but she's also from India. You look at it.
When I was following your work, the ice sculpture piece, and I then saw the aftermath, which is when those trucks were coming and taking them away, and one minute they were standing, and the other minute they went back to being snow. What did it do, knowing that you're working otherwise with permanent, and then here you're working with non-permanent material? Did it, how did it impact your commitment or your sense of, you know what you were creating? Did it influence it in any way?
Actually, I gravitate to that. Being from India, with all our Dasera, with Durga Puja or Ganesh Chaturthi, we have these huge, beautiful pieces of sculpture art that comes about once in a year. All of us enjoy it. We revel in it, and then 10 days later, it's just put into the sea and it goes right back. This ephemeral nature of sculpture is, I think, embedded in my blood. I had done this sculpture symposium in 2016 in Thailand, and they had asked me to come out and do a sculpture of my piece called the Red Dress, and that was in wax, and that too was very similar to the ice sculpture, where um, you it's sculpted, and then after a certain period of time it's completely destroyed. So the permanence of the sculpture is, or the western concept of sculpture is not there. And I think that's pretty much what embodies a lot of the essence of sculpting. It's more like that's my idea, and it doesn't need to be permanent. It is like writing or talking. I'm saying it. This is what I present to you, and then the event is over and it's completely finished.
It's beautiful. Yash, is it possible for us to see the two sculptures we talked about, the ice dragon and the red dress that Shohini created in Thailand? Maybe we can put it up for our audience if it's possible, otherwise later. So, Shohini, which has been your, uh, you know, most uh, difficult, challenging piece, if you want to tell our audience about that?
Um, my challenging piece has been I think the most challenging so far has been the latest ones. I mean, you're still working at it. Once it's complete, it's no longer challenging. When you're working at something, you're thinking up all the various ways of technically making it more easy, viable. Uh, I'm doing a new piece called Volteretta. It's a circular spiral of somersaulting figures. I think that will be a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, I find challenge when I start, because it's so new. It's from 2 dimension to 3 dimension. So how do you stand it up? And then once it's complete, it's done. It's over. The challenge is over. Then it becomes a baby. You just need to go and meet it once in a while.
Beautiful. You also had the opportunity to create an underwater piece. Tell us a little bit about that journey, that experience.
That was an amazing piece of art, which I happened upon 2019. 2019, um, the United States has created an underwater museum in the Gulf of Mexico to create a new reef, actually, a coral reef. And they came up with the aspect of using concrete so that the corals can stick on the surface of the concrete and grow on them. And while they do that, they wanted a gallery of sculptures under the sea. So I was chosen to do this piece called Aspiration, and it was uh, created. First time I've worked in cement. This was created in 2019, and they installed it um, in the sea. And this is once it's installed. This year they invited me to do it again, so I've done another piece, which just got installed in February. This one you can see has already started growing some of the coral and the grass, seagrass. So I'm hoping that turtles and fish and corals come and visit and you know create this new space for growth. The Gulf of Mexico had about 14 years ago was um, had an oil spill that killed everything. So we were bringing back life, and I thought this was what best better way to give back to the earth with art, and the permanence of this would be forever. So it was my give back, my footprint in the world.
And you have there a profile of a woman and the aspiration looking up. Tell us a little bit about that.
So this was a piece that I created to make sure that the currents in the water can still go through the sculpture and not damage it. So that's why it's like a stencil. It's a girl's face looking up with a little ponytail at the back, and she's looking up towards the top of the water with aspirations for a better life and fun things ahead. So if you see, that's her nose and her chin turned upwards and her little ponytail and her ears, and it's in concrete. I had put a family collection of uh, shells on it. So it was more like what came out of the sea went back into the sea again.
Beautiful. So, Shohini, you also, through your work, get to make a comment, a statement to the state of affairs, your own uh, brand of uh, being a conscious uh, person. So, what kind of values or ideas or beliefs have you portrayed or tried to portray? Is there some underlying theme that we can find through your work?
I draw from my society around me. I draw from people around me because I think our um, our humanity is our uh, biggest strength. The fact that we are um, interested in each other, we are loving society, we are growing constantly, we are innovating, we feel, we touch others through our work, our talk, our being. I think that is a very very human thing, and um, I like to illustrate that because we tend to be so involved in our lives to get our goals that we forget what we have around us is so rich, is so important, that once it's lost, we start, uh, moaning about it, or being uh, sad about something that has been lost. But all the while, you had it right there to enjoy when you were trying to get your goal. So we tend to forget to enjoy what we have around us. And I try to catch these instances of pure fun and pure special moments in life that would pass us by if we didn't, immortalize it in sculpture.
It's beautiful. Shohini, when I see your work, I see fun. I see somewhere humor. I see joy. I see love. I see a lot of human emotions. Uh, friendship. I see a lot of those conversations. I love your piece, Gossip, for instance, that was there. Um, just to think we can show our audience some of the work. We have a last minute here. And I do
Oh,
want people to go and take a look at Shohini's website, www.shohinighosh.shohini.com, and take a look at it. Shohini, is your work come to India? Do we have anything in India created by you?
yes, I do. In fact, I have pieces in Mumbai at the inwardly, I think it's Mahendra Towers. Then I had the Siet Tires. Um, I had collected some of my work. Then I have some murals in the US Club. Then I have one mural that was, I didn't do sculpture in India, I did murals mostly. And I did sculpture in copper sheet. So it was a slightly different from what I do now. But my work was collected um, at Birla Academy in Calcutta. Yeah, it's been a number of years. I Tata, the Taj Mahal, the Taj Hotel.
I think we lost Shohini. Yeah. Shohini, we're losing you. We can't hear you for some reason. I think
Um,
now it's you're back. Yeah.
yeah, so it is around in India. Have I would love to do more. Maybe sometime after this, I will be able to come back and sculpt in India as well.
I so do hope we can have and enjoy some of your work for us in our public places or in different cities of our country, just the way you have it in different cities in the United States, and have these beautiful public installations that give so much of cheer and joy and connect us as humanity. Shohini Ghosh, is there any advice you want to leave for, people out there who have hobbies, who have passions, who do things in addition to a regular job, about, really growing through both of those, avenues, the art as well as your everyday work?
I always tell women that you must pursue your creative selves. We, as a culture, we tend to women tend to do a lot of creative things like stitching and painting and singing and writing. I think as a therapy for women themselves, they should pursue these things, however small, however tenuous it might start off as, but keep it going because that gives you something more to do other than always giving to other people. That would be just for you, and you need that. Everyone needs that a little bit for themselves.
So beautiful. Shohini, I am delighted to have you today and to have you share your journey. It's never going to be enough. People take a look at Shohini's work as she creates, as she shows, and it's my fervent wish that we have Shohini's work in our cities, more of them in more public places, and we keep in touch with what you create. And it's been very, very inspiring talking to you. Thank you so much, Shohini.
Thank you. And you must, anybody would want to reach out, send me a text or email, and I'll keep you informed on a regular basis as to what I do. It should be
Shohini's
nice.
email address, if we can put that up as well, Yash, and if we can close with also some of the work, Shohini's work. Maybe we can put that in the, in the links to this talk as well. Some of the
Yes.
links to your work.
Thank you so much, Deepa. This was wonderful. And I hope I can come back maybe sometime later when I'm doing something new and talk about it next
I
time.
would love that. We would absolutely love that. Thank you, Shohini. Thank you.
Great. Take care. Have a lovely day.
Bye and good night to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.